Everybody, welcome back with the Plat, and welcome to our podcast. This is my co-host Laliette. We are the Bazaarians. We haven't come up with a name. I don't think we call it anything yet, but basically I've taken a break. I think Laliette's been more active than me. But I took a break for a while there because little meta changes weren't really that interesting to me. I wanted to wait for like a big new update basically. And the game would open beta, and I've jumped back in, and it's actually been perfect for me. Not just the new cards and stuff, but it's been enough little meta changes where I need to reread almost every item. Because I still, like 2 games in a row, 3 games in a row, I was like, Landscraper, and I just bought it. And I was like, this item sucks! What did they do to you, Landscraper? Same with Vineyard. Oh my god. They said they're going to redesign those. That's not what the intro's about. But, yeah, here we are. We're going to talk about a couple topics today. Obviously the hot topic is monetization. I want to first go over the new stuff in the game, and then we'll more specifically go over the monetization system, how we feel about it, addressing some of the arguments for and against it. And then we'll probably wrap it up with talking a little bit about the current meta. What do we think is strong and what isn't? And yeah, we'll go over all the new cards and stuff, and then we'll talk about monetization. So Laliette, welcome. How are you doing? And how was your month, 2 months in the Bazaar?
It was pretty good. I did think it was kind of weird when they did the reset like 2 weeks before the open beta. So like we got dropped from legendary down to bronze, and then we started climbing again. I got into, I mean, some people were in legendary, but I got to like gold, and then we have the
open
patch.
beta. Did it reset again, or it just reset that one time?
It didn't.
Okay,
It's the one time.
I'm still in bronze. I played a lot of games, but I'm still in bronze. To be fair, I did play like 10 games with Vanessa, and I was a 3-win. I was consistently getting those, 4 wins. 4 wins. I got the first level where I didn't lose rank, but I did not gain anything. So I'm still warming up. I'm stretching my legs, but my last games have been very good. I've gotten much better with Pig now that I'm relearning his item pool and which items to not just buy. And when to buy them. Because before, like, I'd always bought Landscraper, I always bought Yo-Yo. Now it's like, maybe Yo-Yo isn't automatic include in every single build. Maybe Bird isn't automatic include in every single build. So it's been fun just to kind of relearn the game, because it feels kind of like a different character in a lot of ways when so many items are different. My ending builds are always so drastically different. But yeah, so overall, let's kind of go over the new things. So you want to go over the UI stuff first?
Yeah, why not? So we have the subscriptions area, which also holds within it the career and some other features that will be coming. I'm excited to be able to see achievements, leaderboard, the Atlas. There will be a lot of people who want to be able to read all the items, right? So that'll be nice for new players.
This is basically going to be every item in the game, right? You're going to be able to search it up probably. And I'm most excited for being able to see the upgrades of it and like what the enchantments do on it, stuff like that. But I mean, I have a website for that, but I still feel like if you have to, I hope the Atlas is accessible in game, like when you're in a run.
That would be super sick.
I bet it won't at launch, but I hope they implement that in the future. I just feel like if you have to alt tab out of a game to look on a website to figure out if this is going to make your run way stronger or brick it when you're in a ranked game, I think that's like a downside of the game itself. I'm most excited for the match history because I sometimes will talk out my ass like I've won my last 4 games, and then I'm like, oh yeah, there was those 2 I conceded on day 3 because I was pissed. So it'll be fun to kind of get a good plus I like being able to share my runs instead of me having to screenshot it every single time in the middle of the fight to send to you. I'll be able to like maybe go back and just kind of see what the end of the thing is. So yeah, the career is actually really cool. We'll look at this and we can go over my career in a second here if we want to. Achievements, I care very little about if there's no titles or anything connected to them. If there are like things like titles, that will be kind of fun. And then, yes, the subscription. This is one of the, we'll talk more about the monetization in detail, but basically this is $10 a month. This is something I thought should be gems, and I think me and Laliette disagree. He thinks the other payment thing should be gems as an option. But yeah, I think I was wrong in the sense that I think this makes more sense to make gems to keep encouraging people to buy new content. But this also is a it is literally a subscription. It auto renews, and they wouldn't be able to auto renew it if you use gems on it, right? So I think that's why, like, just the way it's structured, this would never get the gem treatment.
Mischievous.
But basically, yeah, I will say I don't like things that are auto renew subscriptions. That's out of all the monetization, this is the part that I like the least. Not the cost, not the other thing. I like that it's auto renew because of course, anytime you auto renew anything, there is a percentage of players that will uninstall the game, not know it, and then go spend hundreds of dollars on this over the course of a year or 2 years and not know it. So I hate auto renewing, especially for things like a game. I want to have to click the button every month.
There was a guy who went on the Reddit who literally said that when he saw there was a subscription, he uninstalled the game because he does not do subscriptions no matter what.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times it. And here's the thing, I get so mad with subscription services, whether it's a gym, whether it's the union I'm in, bro. Oh my god, it's like, hey, sign up, here you go. And then like for the gyms, like, you want to cancel? Sorry, you got to come in person, and we're only open for 1 hour for subscription cancellation services on Wednesdays. And I'm like, okay, but I could sign up anytime. And with my union, I have to handwrite a letter to send it in to request to leave the union. Otherwise, it's not valid. So as long as it's easy to cancel, that's fine. But yeah, auto renewing I think is bad. But I want to talk more about that in a minute. But basically what this is going to give you is it gives you a board that I think is bad. I don't like the board at all. I don't like the music. I don't like the big intrusive animations that jump in front of the middle of your screen if you click it by mistake and now you can't see the battle. I think it's visually mostly pretty cool. It's a little intrusive, and I think the song is too overwhelming. I love this card back, which you get as well. Double prize pass experience, I think, is pretty valuable. It's more chests and additional. It's 2 different ways to get more chests, basically. Which is, you spend money, you're out of the free to play system. You are now never gonna have to worry about playing ranked ever again if you get the subscription, unless you literally lose constantly. I would argue if you can get up to 4 wins, that you're getting 2 chests every time. That's previously getting 7 wins. So that is and you're getting the prize pass experience, so you're probably infinite at that point, even if you can manage 4 wins every game.
Exactly.
So besides that, they added let's go to the quests first. They added the challenges. So daily challenges, weekly challenges, these are just quests, right? You get experience. I am 50-50 on these. I think the quests themselves are relatively easy to complete. Although I think some of the numbers could be adjusted. Like for Pig, 15 bronze skills is like 100,000 bronze skills. Like, I don't go for any, like, I have to level up to level 2 15 times is what this tells me, because I'm not getting a bronze skill any other way, you know? But I actually like this. I think it's like relatively looks good, and I like the quest, but I don't like that you don't get experience for completing runs based on your time investment. It's only through this. So it is strictly time gated, which I think is kind of super lame. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I don't like the time gating feature. Other than that, I have no issues with the quest. I've seen people say that it forces them to play a certain way, or they have to go to unranked to go play where there's now no rewards. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even pay attention to the quests. I just play the game or whatever, and then on my victory screen, right, it's going to tell me,
Yeah,
how many.
I think that they have done an incredibly good job of making the opposite of Hearthstone, where these are very generic. The only one that I've ever seen, and I'm sure there's like a couple outliers that suck that get, but like 100 regen, right? Like, how many people, like, but even this, if you ever go to Finn and you just get the 5 regen thing, right? Maybe you're playing Weapon Vanessa, you don't have any heal items, you don't have any shield items, so you just get the 5 regen. Like, this is possible, but I will say 100 regen in one day, this is like, I think the number is too high. Obviously for Pig, it's been incredibly easy. I did it in 1 run, no problem. But 15 bronze skills, this is 9 runs. This is 9. I think I've done 9 runs to get 9 bronze skills, so I got to do quite a bit more in 10 hours. But for the most part, I think they are very generic. You don't even need to think about them. You will complete them just by playing. I think the daily ones should be completable on average in 1 run, and with like a maximum of 2 runs, though. So I think some of these numbers should be like halved, if not more. Because
Yeah,
a run could take an
I
hour.
also agree.
The weekly ones, like, I completed this weekly one, sell 200 items in 2 runs, right? Like this was nothing for me. I mean, I'm playing pig, but even Vanessa is good at selling items sometimes. Like I saw an augmented weaponry Vanessa that I got destroyed by. She had plus 450 damage on her augmented weaponry. It was gold though, so but still, it was like I don't even know how you get it gold. I got it silver once, but you have to go to the
They
upgrade.
started with skill option, and then they got shown the monster skill, and they took it.
I guess, because that's how I got it. There's also the skill upgrader guy who I got mine from, I think. But point is, yeah, that was nuts. So that's still a lot of selling of items. But yeah, overall, I'm a fan of that. So the prize pass, this is the final monetization. I might be further than some of you guys watching, but I might not. So this is a battle pass. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. The thing is it a good battle pass? Is it a bad battle pass? Well, first, I think visually, it's actually kind of nice. I like the little tickets. I like that pane to skip the
You
entire.
haven't claimed some of your stuff.
Yeah, they're down there. I want to wait till it's like a lot. I don't know. I just want to claim. I have 61 chests and 29 tickets. I kind of want to save them. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So, I think visually this looks very cool. I like that there is new content in it. I like that there's some cool cosmetics, I guess, but I think they need to revamp the free pass. Every battle pass in every game I've ever played has at least one pinnacle item that is cool on the free-to-play pass to encourage free-to-play players to spend. This is something that people are going to, if you're free-to-play, you're going to completely ignore because the quests are generic and you're just going to come in here to collect your tickets. You're not like, oh, I got to make sure to play more, because by playing, you get to play more. And by playing more, you get to play more. So it's not necessarily that engaging for people that just want to collect cool things. So I think you need to have something, at least, like, yeah, there's a chest. Whoa, there's a chest here, guys. But like, I think you need to have some really cool cosmetic. Are debatably, if they were going to release 2 packs, have one of the packs free, you know, on the free scale, something like that. But overall, my final thoughts on the battle pass before we get into the monetization of it is I think the paid one is great. I think they really need to do something to the free to play one because there's nothing to strive for on it. But what do you think about the battle pass? Sorry, the prize pass.
Yeah, I'm right with you. The other thing that I found an issue with is I don't like that the very last day is the second pack. Like, I would much rather, like you said, have that be the very last thing for the free pass. And then, like, I guess that wouldn't really change it that much. It'd still be a problem. But the issue is that unless you had a bunch of gems like me and Platt did, you can't even be here based off of being on subscription and doing all your quests, right? Because it's just way too much experience to get to level 25 before you can ever play the pig item. So what this does is if you don't get the subscription pass, you basically have to wait until the end of the month before you unlock this stuff, and then it goes free the next month.
If you downloaded the game on open beta, like a lot of people did, it is impossible without spending straight up $100 or something, whatever it is, to get this on day one. I think that's maybe reasonable in the sense that you should learn the character before you start diluting the pool with new items. But at the same time, you're forced into queues with people that are using these items as well. So it's, yeah, I don't know. And plus, so even if this was, so not only do you have to spend the $10 to get access to the battle pass, if you downloaded the game, you also would need to spend on the gems to get this day one.
Yes.
So overall, if for people that, I feel bad for people that downloaded the game on open beta, which is a lot of players, because I think Kripparrian said it pretty well. This feels like a pretty bad pay to win system initially, and I think over 6 months it would not feel that bad at all, because players would just accumulate resources naturally like we have, and of course it would still be pay to compete to even be able to get into the system, but because the things are going to go into free to play after a month, you know, if they release a weaker pack, you may not even want it for the month. You know, it may just be for content. Kripparrian said the game is the most free to pay to win that it's ever been, and it's the most free pay to win that it probably will ever be, which I tend to agree with, unless they release a completely broken pack, like they release a thing with 3 cold rooms in it. You know.
Yeah. My big issue is that you kind of have to push the numbers a little bit, right? So like they have sets of numbers in the background that they use to balance things, and they need to tweak like those numbers up a couple, like 1 or 2 points for every card. Maybe one card gets 4 points, something like that. And if they don't make the power level a little bit bigger, then people aren't going to want to buy the pass. People aren't going to want to play with the cards because they might feel like they're at a disadvantage because there is more cards in the pool, which makes it less likely by whatever percent it is, you know what I mean, to see that card. Um,
It's
yeah,
true.
so I do think that's a problem.
It's 100%. Like for me, I'm not the average player. The average player is going to analyze if it's good or it's not and make a purchasing decision based off that, I think. If you're looking at the actual averages of all players. If you're looking at people like me, people like Crip, maybe like you, I don't know. It's like I'm looking primarily for novelty over power level. If it's too strong, I kind of don't want it. But this was all about enhancing a current archetype that exists. If they released one that was all poison pig, it was 10 poison pig items, I would want that really badly because that's just something that isn't explored like at all in the game, right? But it's probably weak as shit because there's no synergy with anything else in his kit. They would have to make items that specifically synergize with it. So even though I would like to see novelty over power, I think that you're absolutely right that they're going to have to prioritize power in order to make it even for the average player to consider buying it. And by making the average player consider buying it, it's kind of it's pay to win, right? I think it's a spectrum, but I want to talk about the monetization in greater detail. I want to take a quick break to talk about something fun first before we get into all the drama, and I want to actually take a look at the career history. I want to kind of go over just our experience in the game. That way we can have some clout. All right. So, do you know your numbers off the top of your head, or like you have some idea roughly of your numbers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So currently I'm bronze 3. I've been playing, but I haven't been playing that much. It actually is quite a long grind to get up. But still, I will end up there. Pygmalion, stop
Yeah,
that.
you need 50 first places to get from the very first level to legend.
That's a lot. That is quite a lot. There is no skill-based matchmaking at any point, though, right? You're always going up against randos, so it's not any harder to like, unlike in Hearthstone or a game like it, right? If you're going from whatever Diamond 1 to Mythic, it's harder because you're fighting other people on Diamond 1. This is just you're going up against whoever's in the pool. Consistency and a lot of playtime is how you get up to high ranked. And consistency is a skill, right? But I mean, it doesn't get progressively harder necessarily. So let's talk about, this is 10 wins. Let's just go with games played, okay? I have 20 games with Vanessa, 214 games with Pig, and 12 games with Dooley. Meaning, every single time I've clicked the play Vanessa button, I've clicked the play Pig button at least 10 times, closer to 11 times. I would say that this might be the most, other than a pure free-to-play player that doesn't have the gems to get other characters and thus only played Vanessa, this might be the most lopsided account in the entire game, like genuinely. I don't know anyone that's dedicated this much time to one character. I have 170 or 150 hours is Pig, and 13 hours is Vanessa. That is, in fact, you could calculate how many. Let's do that really quick, just for fun. Games played.
Why'd you even buy Dooley? Like,
because I had the founder skin. I already knew Dooley would be my least favorite character. 214. No, how much? It was 150 hours divided by 214 games. It means 0.7 hours on average is my game. Which how much is that? What is that, like 50 minutes a game or 40 minutes a game, something like that on average?
yep.
If I did that math right. I'm not. He's the data analyst. All right, I'm the data. Well, I won't. There was a joke there about Arrested Development where I'm the world's first therapist and analyst, and it's. I'm going to cut this part out. Okay, so what does your spread look like?
Mine is pretty even. I have like 30 extra games with Dooley, and I have been playing probably twice as much as you. You know what I mean? So just imagine that. I have maybe 150 to 180 across all of them.
Which I think is kind of funny, is we play the game very differently, probably from obviously characters, but even just from a like decision standpoint, like our decision tree. Um, but we come out the other end, I think, relatively similar in wins. And I think that's actually kind of a good strength of the game because we both tackle the meta differently, right? You are always able to adapt to the meta. Whatever's strongest, you are able to play and get good results with. I tend to brute force or overcome the meta by either just hyper specializing in one character. So even if Pygmalion is weak, I tend to be able to do better than the average Pygmalion player. However, I did take a break when it was dually, season and Pig was just on the chopping block, right? So I think you actually are more equipped to handle a wide variety of metas, and I'm more equipped to capitalize when Pig just isn't the weakest. But here, everyone wants to see, I'm sure, the 10% win. I'm not Kriparian, all right? I'm not Kriparian. That's all I'm going to say, right? He's at like 55%, 45, or he's like 45, 40, and 40 something. I don't know. It was like, that's with all three characters. It might have even been higher. It might
He
have
had
been
one
above.
at like
Okay.
64.
He had 64% on someone. I think it was Pig was his highest win, 10 win, his
Yeah.
character. That
Honestly,
is
your 30 on Vanessa is really respectable. You're like, I suck with Vanessa so bad. It's like, well, your career with Vanessa is pretty good. My Vanessa is only 26%.
that's to be fair, it's I guess it's a double-edged sword, right? The more amount of games I play, I think the more impressive a higher number becomes. Because if I play one game and I win, that's 100%. So over 20 games, I think I just had a little bit of beginner's luck, a little bit of I've played the game more than most people have, so I kind of know what to expect. And I was able to move that into 10 wins. But I don't think if I played 100 games with Vanessa, I'd maintain that 30%. Whereas Pig, I bet in 100 games, it'll be at 36%, maybe even climb a little bit. I don't know. It depends. Are they going to bring Cold Room back? I'll go up to 80% if they keep Cold Room. But yeah, I thought this was really fun to look at. Not all of these are being tracked because they're not tracking the diamonds, but you can see 202 trophies. Apparently, I've gotten more 7 wins than I have, or 10 wins than I have. I don't know if this is accurate. I don't know. But yeah, all kinds of cool. This is, by the way, this kind of dumb shit. The thing that they normally just tweet out like, oh, how many damage has been done by our community to the fake rain ad. I'm like, I love this kind of shit on my personal level. If I just look at Pygmalion, 150 hours, 214 games, this shit is fun for me. I love being able to see this is the most important thing. And they actually, I want to give them, I want to compliment them that they went above and beyond, right? I've sold 22,000 items as Pig, right? And I love that they have no one who cares about how many merchants you visited. That's not interesting, but they added all the stuff where there's anything you even could be interested in, it's in here. So I do really appreciate that. This is my favorite addition in the entire game so far. It stops me from it's like when you do a budget, you roughly, I know how much I spend on food per month, and then you write it down, you're like, whoa, okay, this is exactly it. I know how many times I've played Pig, I know how many times I get 10 wins, and now you can actually see it, and now there's no self-delusion about it, either good or bad.
There is one thing missing that
Okay.
I did actually want, and that was your average wins.
You're right. I don't know. You're 100%
So
average
weird.
placement. Average placement should 100% be included. Or average wins, right? Yeah, it's like, oh, because on Pig maybe it's 7.4 or something, or 7.5, or I think that's actually you're right. That's probably the most interesting one. When I was saying that, I think I assumed it was in there, not forgetting that it just straight up wasn't. Because if you're going to have the 10 win percent, there are going to be players that have 5% on this and they're going to feel bad. But if they see that they normally are, but your average placement is 8.3, you just never quite push to the super build, but you're really consistent at getting good 7 wins. I think that they must add that. There's no way, unless they just don't have the tech to track that. But I assume if they can track how many times you got 10 wins, and how many trophies you have, that they can calculate all that, no problem. All right. That was the fun part. Is there anything else you want to add to that before we jump into the monetization?
No, I'm just jealous that you have legendary Pig and I don't.
This one, you know what? You want to make you really jealous? Also, they need to completely revamp this UI. This UI now sucks. It's I opened 190 chests. This is clearly dog shit, right? This is just like in a permanently expand. There's nothing, I can't dust these, right? There's nothing I could do with them. It just will get longer and longer and longer every single time I open a chest. So I think they should change that. Just to complain.
Yeah.
I bet I have.
Right now they're organized by the number right on the certificate.
I do only have the one. This is actually an early one. It's number 81. So I'm gonna get rid of. I'm gonna sell it for sure. It's gonna be slightly used. You know what? Think about all the 10 wins that skin got. All right. Yeah, actually, that is the only time I've gotten that one. That's crazy. I guess I don't get that many skins.
Not this one in particular, but the mythic rarity or whatever, legendary rarity is 1 in 400.
1 in 400. Okay, so I must have, at this point, I've opened probably, I think I've actually opened 400 chests. So I guess you would expect to get one of these, roughly. And I just guess I got lucky and got the one that I want for Pig. I think it says I've earned 437 chests, so I probably opened like 360 chests over time. All right, so monetization. Basically, what they've done is they've added 2 ways to pay for the game. It is a free-to-play game. It didn't feel like a free-to-play game at first because everyone that was playing had to spend to get in. But now, anyone in the world, you just have to give them an email account or something, and then you could log in, play the game. You're going to start the game. You are going to have only Vanessa unlocked. The first character, I believe, is still on a discount for 200 gems, and I think the last one is... The basically, I know that you get some sort of discount when you buy your second character, maybe when you buy your third character, at least in early access. Maybe that was limited to the closed beta.
It used to be 500 and then 1500.
Okay. So maybe, I don't know if that's still in the game. I assume it is. That seems specifically designed to help new players engaged. So you can buy gems. It's a dollar per 100, which is, I would say, also they made it go up by 500. You can't buy increments of $1 anymore, huh? You can only buy $5 at a time.
Probably better.
This conversion rate is bad. This is not a good conversion rate with how easy it is to get gems. Like Kriparian has like 36,000. Maybe he's like the extreme example, but like I had 11,000, right? Or I had 11,000, which is what, $110 of gems. And then I spent it, and now I'm up to 60 again. I got 700. It's like, I don't know. I feel like $1 per 100 is not value, but there's also no way to spend your gems, really. So who gives a shit? The gems are only to unlock new characters, which we have. And then to basically supplement your tickets. If you don't have enough tickets to do a ranked game, you can spend $1 to get a ranked ticket.
And to buy levels for your battle pass.
And to buy levels for your battle pass, yeah. So then they added 2 additional ways to spend money. The subscription, which we talked about a little bit. What I think is kind of funny is they said specifically, it's not always going to be a board. This was a go big. He said, this is our go big, celebrate that the game is launching. I was like, I think a board is kind of unexciting. I personally don't care for boards that much, but I know a lot of people do, but I also don't like this board. I like, there's things I like about it. I like the middle, but it's just distracting to me more than anything. I also hate, because I like clicking on the side of the board, and if I click slightly too low, a giant globe opens up in the middle of the map, and I can't see anything. And so, like, I felt myself being frustrated while playing with this board constantly. I do think it's a cool card back. I don't know, it's just pretty. I like colors, you know. But basically, you spend $10 a month, and it's auto renew, which is, I think, the scummiest part of all of the monetization by far. I think it should you should have to click this button every month, because you only choose auto renew to the only reason you choose auto renew. It's never to convenience the players, so they don't have to click one button a month. It's to take advantage of players who will buy it and then forget about it. That's the only reason. What's the other advantage to it? I can't think of it. I'm sure a PR person could, you know, it's like EA, pay to progress. It's like, we just want, people have busy lives, you know, they need to be able to engage with content in a way that they want. This is spokesperson could be like, it's just a good way to conveniently make sure that the player doesn't need to keep doing the same thing again and again in a game about doing the same thing again and again. What do you think about this part of the monetization, the subscription?
Yep, I hate subscriptions. I think it's really scummy.
What about the actual what you're getting for $10? This costs $10 a month What do you think about the
Oh,
value?
$10 is definitely like if you think of $10 worth of gems, right? Um, that's how many? 1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 1,000 gems. Um, it's crazy how fast you'll get that with the double rank chests.
I I think that I could not argue that this is good value, in pretty much an objective sense too. When I say value, a lot of times I'm talking about in gotcha sense, where I'm like, oh, this is only $50 and it's normally $100 for your pixels. This is $10 a month as a subscription for a game that you can play entirely free, but they've got to make money, and I don't like it when people use that argument one way or another necessarily. Like, well, they got to make money, so they got to charge you $100,000. You want everything for free, but the point is they do want to make money, and I think that this is a very reasonable way to make money. If you buy this subscription, you are completely out of ever needing to buy a gem ever. From I mean, maybe not, maybe they add some things that cost so much gems you can never afford it, but double prize pass experience, that equates to getting an essentially pay to win faster. But really, for people like me, it's just more chests. You're just going to get twice as many chests. About, I don't know how many I'm going to get by the end of the season, but 20 chests maybe there just from the prize pass, in addition to what's normally on the prize pass. And the double rank mode chest, that's a big one. I mean, if you get 4 wins, you're getting 2 chests, which is what you used to have to get 7 wins to get. So you're probably infinite. I don't even know if I mentioned that before our conversation or if it was during this podcast. But if you can manage 4 wins on average, you're probably infinite already, in terms of you never have to worry about your rank tickets. You never have to worry about getting enough gems to play. Maybe that's like literally, maybe if you only ever get 4 wins and you always get 4 wins, you may not quite be infinite. But if you throw a couple 7 wins in there and you're getting 4 chests, that's massive. And if you ever get a 10 wins, you're getting 6 chests. I mean, I got 60 chests. I spent 190 chests to get all my stuff, and I've played a couple of games. I'm up to 60 something chests again. Right? This gives you a ton of the in-game resources where you just don't need to think about you don't need to manage your ranked resources ever. You can just play the game when you want to play the game, and this will take care of it. So overall, I
Yeah.
think this is a very reasonable way to monetize the game outside of the auto renewing subscription. Um, that was
Yeah, 6 chests is like 250 gems just from that 110 win.
exact. Yeah. So that's not only you might get a ticket from those, because I think you get about a 5%. It doesn't say it, but I think every 20 chests on average is when I got a ticket. Um, so you're basically taken care of. So overall, I actually like the subscription. I hate the auto renew, but I think this is a very reasonable way to monetize the game. And what I like about this is that it is completely optional. This just helps you as a player not need to worry about playing ranked, tickets ever. And I honestly, I think it is pretty good. I don't care about the cosmetics. I care about what I'm getting besides the cosmetics.
Yeah, it's super good for new players because while you're learning the game and kind of sucking and only getting like 4 to 6 wins on average, makes you feel really good that you can play ranked the whole time and you don't have to go play for no rewards in a different system. And all it costed you was $10.
Yeah, and it's plus when you start getting better, you're gonna start getting that currency way faster to unlock your new characters. And I like it that it is the reason they made it auto renew is because it is a modular thing. You probably don't need it every month, right? Like you play a lot one month, you turn it off, you have a ton of resources saved up. You come back when you want to play it, you buy the subscription again. I think it's just overall, I didn't expect them to monetize it in that way, like doubling rank chest, and I think it's actually pretty smart, and I think it's fair because you could still go if you're getting 10 wins all the time. I mean, how many of us have shown that you can go infinite just by getting 10 wins enough in the previous system? Now for $10 a month, even less skilled new players, people that just don't want to, I don't know, like you could basically, it's $10 a month, like playing World of Warcraft. You could play this all you want and not need to think about it. But
Yeah, and we showed a model way back in the day with like about how many wins the average person would get,
mhm,
right, and at what distribution. And so like 25% of players were infinite, basically on the old system, and a little bit more, maybe closer to 30% once you include the free ticket, right? So every day that we used to have, and now I think even without the subscription. Um, I think if you average like, well, and it's not perfectly averaging, right? Because like you do have to get a decent amount of actually over sevens. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but if you average, I think 5.5 to 6 wins, I think you're going to be infinite, which now opens us up. You know what I mean? To way more. Now we're talking about over half of or maybe not over half, but about half of the player base being able to be basically infinite. And of course, if you're playing 10 hours a day, you might not be infinite. You know what I mean? But most people are like playing much more limited games, and with those 45 tickets that you could uh, you could get over the course of the month. That's a lot of extra games to get extra gems.
It's true. I think they should bring back the free daily ticket. I think it's a way stronger incentive for players to play, because here completely avoids the issue that currently could exist, where if you have 0 tickets but you have the prize passes a bunch on there, you have to play unranked to complete the challenges in order to get the tickets. Whereas if you just have the daily ticket, you never have to feel like you're, because then there will be some players that will see like, oh, I have to play unranked to unlock the tickets. I'm like, fuck it, I'll play a different day or something. But if you just have that one free rank ticket, so many more players are just gonna take that once a day. And it also, I think, it raises the value of it raises the challenge in ranked mode, because people that are free to play are taking that ticket more seriously than if they have like 45 in the bank, whatever. So if you don't have any tickets, you have that one, you got people really trying, they're trying to punch up. And I think it is reasonable to take off like 15 of these, because it's at 45 tickets, I think, here. Make the first 15 levels maybe one ticket, and then you bring back the daily ticket or something like that. And then I don't know, something like that I think is more reasonable, because I really want them to have that rank ticket for free every day.
Yeah, I agree. I was talking to a couple people on Reddit today, and they were complaining. And I didn't really understand why, but once we got into it, it was they only play once a day, right? So
Yeah.
these are like very casual players, and the issue that they have is if they're not winning enough, they can get in that limbo that you were talking about, where you have to go play normals, which no longer give a ticket at 10 days. So now they feel like if you played before, you're extra upset because you used to get a reward for playing in this game mode, and now you don't. And for the new players, they just never knew, that meta where you would get a ticket for 10 wins in normal.
Yeah, I think I mean, to me, this is the biggest evidence of it being like a beta or whatever kind of monetization system. Not that the structure of it is we'll talk about that a bit more, but it's just the ticket limbo that exists now that didn't really exist before for casual players, where, and I think it compounds with the fact that the daily quests are too high in numbers. You're not completing it in one run almost ever. Some of them maybe for specific builds or whatever, but it might take 2, 3, 4, 5 runs for like me to get, it's going to take 10 runs to get all the Pygmalion skills.
You got to re-roll that one.
Yeah, I think I'll be able to get it if I just throw one run in but this is exactly it. I'm going to go into unranked. I'm going to toss a run just to pick up every bronze skill that I can to get it done. Which is not where you want to be. And again, it's kind of that ticket limbo where people that are trying to play once, maybe twice a day, the runs can take a half hour, it could be 20 minutes to an hour, depending on what character, what build, how much you already know the game. So if someone's going to spend that much time only playing, you only have time to play 2 hours a day? What are you talking about? So yeah, it's kind of just two issues colliding. And so I think one of them needs to give. I think you need the daily ticket. That way people can always make a little bit of progress towards stuff. Or you need to make the daily quest almost autocomplete after, one run always. That way, if you have one ticket, you're guaranteed to get another 2 tickets up until you get to the battle pass. But yeah, I hate that. I would not want to play if I had to switch between ranked, unranked, ranked, unranked, 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 ranked, ranked. If just to maintain the thing. And the solution is to spend more money, I guess. But I think they could do better than what they've done right now in that regard. So
or put the ticket back into unranked, right?
Yeah, they could put the ticket into unranked. I don't really like that. But I mean, I guess, yeah, that's the thing, is they took too many tickets out of the system and put it all in here. I think that I think they're valuing rank tickets a little too highly. I'm okay with the rank ticket avoiding bots kind of thing, but if it feels like it's not quite there yet. They're just, the way you get them is a little too, either bring back the daily one, put it at the end of the thing. Don't take everything out and put it all into this battle pass and make people play these quests. But yeah, so this is where we get to the pay to win argument. This is $10 a month for the battle pass. And then for for $0 a month, you get the top part, which is tickets. I think you get 2 chests. And you get 45 tickets. Maybe it's more than chests because there's one at 20, and maybe you get like 4 chests or something. There's one at 25, one at 15. Okay, so every 5 levels, maybe something like that. So you get a couple chests, all right, and then you get a bunch of tickets for free. But if you spend money, you get access to new content. There are also, you get a chest every single level instead, in addition to the tickets, right? So you get chest, then you get cosmetics, chest, cosmetics, chest, cosmetics. You get 10 chests here. That's actually kind of big. And then eventually you're going to get more content here. So this is where people are saying the game is pay to win. And I'm going to be honest, I am happy with the monetization as it currently stands. I think it is very reasonable it's very reasonable to spend $10 a month on the subscription to get out of the free-to-play thing where you no longer need to worry about rank tickets. You just get a bunch of chests, you get a bunch of cosmetics, you get to keep playing ranked as much as you want. I also think it's very reasonable to spend $10 for them to add new content, as it is. I am a Magic the Gathering player, a Marvel Snap player, a Gacha player. You know, pretty much every time a game comes out with new content, I expect to pay for it. People have brought up Path of Exile as a great example of not doing that, but for the most part, in a card game, which this is card game adjacent, when they release new cards, I tend to expect to pay for it. $10 for 2 different expansions of 10 cards each to 2 characters. It all sounds reasonable to me. I none of it I'm like upset by. I think, okay, this is pretty cool. I think the issue comes in a couple ways. One, it's when it's all combined. You're now asking $20 a month to get the perfect experience, which I think is too much for this, because it's separate. The rank ticket system and the content are separate in 2 different $10 purchases. And so I think it's reasonable to pay for either of them. I don't think it's necessarily reasonable that you have to pay for both of them to get the best experience. If you're a free-to-play, if you're a low spender, you don't want to spend more than $10, I think you're going to have to spend on this, but then you might end up in that ticket limbo still than you were before. You're going to get a couple more chests, but not that much. So you have to basically choose, do you care about the economy rank system or do you care about the fun? If you're going to spend $10. And so the game pushes you into spending $20. And of course, even if it's not specifically this time pay to win, because let's say it's pay to lose in the sense that these are weaker and they dilute your pool. The system is set up to be pay to win, where the second they release something that's a little more powerful, it will immediately become pay to win, and you will have to give them money in order to maintain a high win rate, which now you can see reflected. You're going to be able to look at your 50%, 36% win rate go down to 25% because you're losing. So it all kind of comes together to have a feel bad experience for a low spender. But what do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. My biggest issue is I really don't like the idea that the first day of every release, right, or every new battle pass, or if they ever decide to sell them separately in like a shop or whatever, but every release is going to come with 1 to 2 days where spenders are going to have a sizable advantage on everybody else. That's my real issue with it. If we just remove that issue from the problem, and make it like gems, right? So a free-to-play player could save up to be able to get the new packs on day 1. That's why I want it to be the battle pass versus the subscription. And you made a great point that the subscription has to be a subscription so that people forget, right? So if they bought them with gems, then you would have to go in there and buy it with gems every month.
Yeah, so I think if it wasn't an auto-renew subscription from a business standpoint, it makes sense because it's kind of a self-fulfilling thing. You spend gems to get the thing that gets you more gems, so everyone could kind of do it while having a gem sink in there. And it also, most of the time, I think you want in most games. Again, I don't like the direct comparison arguments like, oh, this is bird shit. Why are you complaining about this dog shit? I'm like, it's still bad. You know, it's like you could compare shit to shit, and one of them could be a bigger pile of shit, but just because it's a smaller pile of shit doesn't mean I want to eat it. So I understand that argument, but I still think a lot of games put content behind relatively low paywalls, which I think is reasonable. But even things like League of Legends, that I would, you could argue a lot of these games are behind paywalls. Apex Legends with new characters, stuff like that. It's an illusion that there isn't a paywall, because they will have a gem cost associated with it that most players won't be able to get with free to play gems. You'll have to buy the gems to get the thing or whatever. So it's like a new character comes out and you get 100 gems a month, and it's a 1,500 gem character, right? Like, so it's like you have to spend to get it, but someone realistically could save up. Like 5% of the player base will get that for free, or 10% of the player base will get that for free, which I think is important for optics.
Yes, that was my point. Yeah, it's really just for optics. Like you said, it's not a huge difference, but it's that optic piece.
And there's a few arguments. One, is it pay to win? Yes, I think pay to win is a spectrum. Obviously, I mean, I think back in the past it was kind of a binary thing, and I'm not talking about gender. All right, I'm talking about monetization of video games. I think it always very much used to be binary. If something is pay to win, it's not. But it's so clearly evolved into levels where there is, you could say on one end you have, I don't know, maybe Counter-Strike, where everything is skins, right? And I don't think that you could spend, I think if you spent $100,000 on every skin in that game, you would never have a mechanical advantage, where that's like, all right, there's no pay to win there at all. And on the other side, you have the world of mobile games, where if you, for every dollar you spend, $1 equals 1 power point. You know, it's like someone spends $10, they get 10 power points. If you spend $100, you get 100 power points. You with 100 power points will beat the 10 power point player. So it's like there's no cap on how much you could spend to increase your power. Or if there is a cap, it's so unrealistically high that it's arbitrary, where it's $10,000 a month, it's $50,000 a month, something, right? It's like no one could actually reach that realistically. And so that's on the other end. I think the Bazaar is much closer to the Counter-Strike side of that, for sure. Where it's closer, I would say it's even closer to Counter-Strike than like Magic the Gathering is. I like to call these, even though yes, it is objectively in the pay-to-win category, I suppose, because you are paying for some form of advantage that is unaccessible without paying. So I like to categorize these kinds of games as pay to compete, which I think is in the pay to win category. But pay to compete basically means the cap on how much you could spend for power is relatively low, where it's exactly like Magic the Gathering in my mind. You cannot expect to compete without investing in a deck, right? So Magic's expensive. All right, it's a physical product. But even in Arena, let's say you have to spend $150 to get a really, really good deck, which is why I think it's more expensive than this game. If you spend $600, $700, $800, you get no more advantage at all. You can buy all the cosmetics, but once you have the game pieces, you have no more advantage or increasing to spend. It's not spending for power. It's like you're spending to get to the same level as everybody else, but once you pay to get to that level, everyone is equal at that level. So even though I will acknowledge it's pay to win, I still like to categorize it as pay to compete. And I know that might make me sound like a dick sucker when it comes to just like celebrating the game being pay to win, but I do think it is a reasonable distinction to make within the pay to win genre or of games, where it's something that's always existed, where you have to spend to get the new stuff. And I think it's reasonable. Again, I'm not actually happy with the monetization system necessarily, but I think they've gotten way too much blowback, by the way. People are, it is on fire in that Discord still. I think it's a very fair, reasonable monetization system, but I think it absolutely should at least have the illusion that a free-to-play can obtain everything and can achieve that. Sorry, I went off a little bit long there, Laliet. If you please add anything that you would like to add.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that you said. Really, At the end of the day, the best way to probably look at this in the perspective that we kind of use from being from games that are way more expensive, just to be able to play on a competitive level, right? Just to get access to that kind of game. This one is the lowest barrier to entry for a pay to win game that I've ever seen, right? So it's
Yeah.
like you could almost invert and say it's the best pay to win system I've ever seen. Only not best as in it makes the most money, best as in it's the least predatory out of all of those. So, like for example, you play Path of Exile and I don't, but I saw a lot of people in the Discord saying that there's these things called like sashes, and you have to buy those, and they sell a shit ton of those.
Yes. So I think Path of Exile is both a great and a terrible argument for different reasons. The Path of Exile is a free to play game with no pay for power, but they sell stash tabs. I played the game for 50 hours without buying stash tabs, probably. And then there comes a point where I don't feel like you could realistically have the full experience of the game without buying stash tabs. It's just, it keeps all your crafting experience. It keeps everything so organized, and it makes your gameplay loop better. But they are all one-time purchase and you're done forever. So they have successfully made a game that you can 100% play free to play in terms of all the content. However, it's also, I think, disingenuous to say that you can enjoy the game to its fullest without spending money, while at the same time, when you spend that money, it is a one-time purchase and you never really have to spend it again. So like once you spend like 30-40 bucks on Path of Exile 2, you basically are never incentivized to spend another dime on the game ever again. So it's kind
All
of a
right,
weird system.
so there is a limit to how many stash tabs you want. Okay, I thought you had to buy one every time you wanted to like play a level.
No, there are people with a lot. I never will need that much. I have like whatever. I bought like 5 stash tabs of different types or whatever. I don't think I'll ever need one ever again in my life. And they're permanent. So they even carried over from Path of Exile 1. If you bought them in Path of Exile 1, you don't even need to rebuy them in Path of Exile 2. They carried it all over. Also, every cosmetic that you ever bought in Path of Exile 1 also is going to work in Path of Exile 2. They are kind of the golden boy in a sense here. And they're still not perfect because I think baseline, you get a more enjoyable experience out of this game free to play than you do free to play that game. But I think this game over the course of 6 months will cost you more than Path of Exile would.
Yep, that's
Um,
true.
so a couple of the arguments we've heard against the monetization, and again, I'm kind of torn on it. I've heard a lot of arguments over time, over the last like week, that I've kind of started to sway on it, because initially I was very positive. I was like, this is great. $10 a month for new content, $10 a month if I want to ensure that I got all the chests that I ever am going to need. Yeah, I'll spend $20 for the first month, and then I'll maintain the battle pass after that. That seems very fair to me. And then I saw everyone was really, really mad. So I understand the arguments. One of the big ones is pay to win. Yeah, I guess it's like, it's someone that plays a gacha game. I'm like, this is very, again, like you said, unaggressive in the pay to win category. It's a very low offense in that, but I can't argue that it's not, right? You are paying for an advantage over a certain amount of time. The bait and switch, and that's what a lot of people are saying, is that they talked about and had quotes of like, hey, you'll never have to have any pay to win at all in the game. And it'll always be a continuing pool of cards that are going to grow, and everyone's going to have them, and it's just going to be, you're going to be paying for like cosmetics, and that's clearly not the direction they went. So I didn't keep up with the Bazaar when it was in development. I don't know what Reynad said about it. I was always interested mechanically. So that would be a very good reason to be upset if they said there's going to be no pay to win and then they add pay to win, even though it is a low bar. So I don't really have an argument against that either, if I'm being honest. And also the one that me and Laliette are actually the most upset about is the growing pool of cards. So let's just quickly give a demonstration here. If I was going to go play a game with Pygmalion, I get this expansion thing, and you can select and deselect all the cards you want. So this, on paper, to new players seems probably like no big deal at all. It's just something you could add new cards, you cannot add new cards. But this has a couple downsides to it. One of the core philosophy from the design of the Bazaar, from what I understand, and I've heard it said by YouTubers, by Bazaar employees, Tempo, whatever, it's always there is no meta in the Bazaar. You can't have a meta. It's a game designed around not having a meta because of the sheer amount of options. You can't force builds. That has never for even 5 seconds been true in any since the game is launched in the family and friends. There is never, my understanding is there's never even been 5 seconds of that being a true statement, despite it being a core philosophy of the game design. And I'm not blaming them for it. I think it's a really good game. I always thought it was an unachievable goal. To be honest, there's always a meta. It's what people are doing. Not being able to force build sounds nice, but guess what? A lot of game developers, a lot of games always say you're not going to be able to force meta, and players always do. They underestimate the law of large numbers. When a lot of people start doing something, trends always show up. But the solution to that potentially was going to be they're going to add more and more and more expansion packs over time. So Pygmalion has roughly 100 cards. Now you get this, you have 110 cards. Next month, or I don't know, 4 months from now, or even a year from now, you're at 150 cards, 160 cards. They add a couple more packs here and there over the course of a year. Now you have this way bigger pool, and suddenly everything becomes more adaptable. You really are getting to that point where you can't realistically force builds. You could force archetypes, but you wouldn't be able to force specific best in slot builds. However, by being able to disselect this, you are always going to be able to have a refined set of cards only with the ones that you want, and you will always be able to force meta all the time. And so this is basically the way I believe Laliet said to me, this is them conceding that there will always be a meta in the game, and you will always be able to do the best thing when you queue up for the game, or they're no longer trying to make it unattainable to completely destroy a meta. And you could hear it in their patch notes. They went from saying the Bazaar doesn't have really much of a meta, we're just making these changes, we're adding more cards, to being like, all right, we're making these changes to shake up the meta. It seems like they've kind of given up on that philosophy of the game, which I actually don't mind. But as someone that likes to brew and play off meta, when there is no meta, playing off meta is way easier. Anyway, I'm sorry, Laliet. Will you? What do you think? Oh shit! I just used a ticket. Oops. Go ahead and continue with what you were thinking.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with everything you say. I really wanted the game to have that growing pool so that we could get to a place where I don't have to worry about playing what's best to be able to win, right? I've really enjoyed the meta is probably the best it's ever been for me personally, and that's playing all three characters. So, like, usually there's characters that are just much better than other characters, and right now Vanessa's probably the best because she has like 3 playable builds, you know what I mean, which are her 3 main archetypes. But I think her power level is very slightly above like Dooley and Pig, and even though Pig might be a tiny little bit weaker than Dooley on average, if you're somebody like Platt, if you prefer to play that hero, there are plenty of ways to win with Pig where it's not even an issue.
Yeah, 100%. Also, like, one thing I like about the start of run selection that they've added is, I can't say for sure because I haven't played all the characters enough, but different characters seem like the different options are the best. For example, starting with a gold skill as Pig usually sucks. He has a lot of really bad gold skills. There's like, whenever you crit with a healing item, give a weapon, she like a lot of just shit that doesn't do anything. So I actually think starting gold with skill with Pig is pretty bad. However, if you get something like a shiny rewards card or something, or even a yo-yo with like poison on it, like there's so many little enchantments that make his starting items way better. I think that's actually really good. And plus, straight up, just having a bunch of income for your early ATM is great as well, right? So whereas Vanessa, I always wanted the skill. The skill felt so much more powerful than having a random, I don't know, like, oh yeah, I've got a toxic throwing knives. So I'm like, yeah, but who fucking cares? It's like, how actually good is that in the long run, as opposed to getting a gold skill that makes all my weapons badass. I really like that change to it.
Yeah, I do like the 3 selections, and I think it's actually brilliant design. So they managed to find a way, right, to look at all 3 heroes and give them different advantages and disadvantages to the portions of the game that they are not good at, right? So, for example, Pig's always been weak early game. It's just that's the Pig thing. He's the best at the end of the game because he has the most scaling items and the most HP and the most economy. So the way that I would think of those three is you have the consistent option that is just going to be baseline safe, right?
Yeah.
And then you have, do I want to be strong in the early game with slash late game with high risk, right? So if you get an enchanted item, you can get one that's really strong early game. You can get one that's really strong late game. And there's some that are good in both situations, right? But it's high risk because you could get three really horrible items. So it doesn't matter what the enchantments are. It's going to be on a brass knuckles, right? Brass knuckles with obsidian is still nothing to write home about. So
It's not, but it is on day 1, 2, 3. That's what I love about it. It's because, like you said, Pig is weak in the early game. Suddenly, if you have an 8 power brass knuckles with obsidian on it, it's 32 because it doubles the double, so it's times 4. And suddenly, you just get like a grindstone, and you're hitting for like 300 damage on day 1, 2, and 3. But like that shit does never win you the game. It's never gonna actually be good because it's base. But yeah, that's what I love about, like you said, it's a great design. It means Pig can choose to invest into his future with the investment. He could choose for early game power to try to go for a 10 win in 10 days. Not have to go into day 14, stuff like that. Or he could choose the skill, and which is just wrong. You should almost never pick that. That's the really risky one on Pig, which I don't think it's that risky on Vanessa.
Exactly. And I like that that's how it sits, right? So like um there is a risk to pick the other early game power spike, right? Which is the skill. With Pig because there's just so many items. But there also are so many, like we could think of so many things that are broken to start with. Do you remember the meta when we always had HP Pig because you would start with a golden, what is that called?
Oh, arms merchant. Yeah.
Arms merchant. So when you hit golden arms merchant, you're like, okay, I'm playing HP Pig today, and good luck. So
It's so strong. You just pick up a Regal Blade, and you're like, I'm gonna win the first 8 days without even thinking. You know.
And you can get monster skills, right? So like, there's a bunch of monster skills that are crazy with Pig. So there definitely are some high rollers, but it's very risky. And I think with Vanessa, it's actually like very safe. Like I have not played a Vanessa game where I'm like, oh man, I have to start with this. Like the worst one I had was 24% crit to one item, which if you play Vanessa, you can utilize that really well.
Yeah, I got that. It was like good. It wasn't like I wasn't like whoa, but I was like, you know what? I gave it to my cannon, right? It crit on the fire, and like that shit was pretty good. Critting on fire items, by the way, is great. That's like so
And
much
it
more
really
powerful.
enables, yeah, and it enables you to play one weapon Vanessa, right? So you get like a flagship or something, and now when you have your whatever you call a crow's nest, if it's at gold at 60%, well now you're at 84%, right?
Yeah. So I want to go over the new packs and kind of take a look at the cards really quick. But to wrap up each of our thoughts, I'll do me first. Is I think that the current monetization is incredibly reasonable. I can't argue that it's not pay to win, but I think I think it's not a very aggressive pay to win, and I think it is pretty reasonable for continued development to monetize the game in this way. However, I also think that the community backlash has been big enough to justify that they should add, at the very minimum, the illusion of the free-to-play grind, where free-to-play players that are incredibly good at the game can get the content for free without having to wait a month. That is there. Next month, you'll be able to get it, but having a pure advantage for a month, like I think that they should be able to. This month, maybe they're playing, but they saved up a bunch of gems. Next month, day one, they can get all the new power content to play it. So I think they need to adjust it a little bit, but I don't think it's like inherently unfair or ridiculous. What do you think, Laliette?
Yeah, so before I give my feelings, I was already supposed to say this. So a staff from Tempo did say that one of the things that they're floating as an idea is that you'd be paying for early access to the cards, and then that in the next month or in a couple months that they would go into the entire card pool. So
Mhm.
then we would get the growing card pool, and people wouldn't have to buy them. So right, so that helps on two, like the free to play players, and it helps with our issue about not having the growing card pool. So I really hope that will happen. Outside of that, I think to complain about the system the way people have complained about it is obscene. I have no idea, like, how well, how do I want to say this? I don't know. Anything I would say would be very mean and it would put people off. But my point is, I don't know why you're going to burn down bridges and houses and stuff and get your pitchforks over this monetization. Um, I just look at this game as a card game, a TCG, and this is the cheapest TCG I've ever played online.
Yeah, I think it's less pay to win than Battlegrounds, which is, if you look at its direct competitors, it's not less pay to win than TFT, but TFT has the advantage of being in the League of Legends client, of being in the client of the world's largest game. I think that's a little unfair to directly compare it to. Cosmetics are crazy big in that game, but like if you look at Battlegrounds or Super Auto Pets, even I think Super Auto Pets is kind of a bit closer, but their
Yeah,
main
it's
comp-
actually the same price,
yeah,
$5 a pack, right?
yeah, the thing is, the most direct is Battlegrounds, and I think directly compared to Battlegrounds, that this is way better. Battlegrounds, you don't. The thing is, you don't need to pay for new content ever, but the game is built around pay to win, in the sense that you have to pay to get more hero selection, and you can now pay for re-rolling those heroes. You have a clear advantage in every single game. The more money you spend, if you want more rerolls, you could spend $100 on more rerolls, and you'll have an advantage over more games than someone that only spent $5 on rerolls, right? So I think that game is a much more egregious pay to win system, but you never need to pay for the content, which I understand. But I think that's more of an advantage of the structure of the game, where they have the same base pool of cards that never changes, or they change it, but everyone is using the same deck, but you're using different heroes, right, that modify the deck, where this is the opposite, basically, where you're using a complete, everyone's using their own deck, and competing, against themselves. It's much more solitaire in that regard. But I still, yeah, I think that this is less pay to win than even Battlegrounds. So I think people have gone kind of way too into the mysteries of the deep over this. It's really not that bad. Maybe Raynad, I don't know. In the people said in the Discord, he kind of went baby mode and was kind of yelling at everybody and was like saying, like, being a
He
lot of
did
disrespectful stuff.
very normal Raynad things, yes.
Yeah, but that doesn't seem uncommon for him. Like, this is his baby, and then he released what he probably thought was an incredibly favorable comparison compared to Battlegrounds, and then it's literally the world is on fire. I'd probably be mad also, but I think people have gone too far. Just in general, I mean, people are allowed to complain, freedom of speech or whatever, but like, I don't feel like they're acknowledging how actually fair it is in terms of the pain aspect of it. Um, it's not like no one has I don't know. I don't want to say just, you don't have $10, but you can't even play Magic the Gathering without investing $100, a lot of times. I don't know. I'm talking in circles at this point. Point is, I actually think it's an incredibly fair, reasonable monetization, but I do think that there needs to be an aspirational thing on the battle pass for free to play. Because free to play is a very valuable part of the journey. It keeps people a lot. You want as many people in the game as possible. You want free to play to be able to play. You want them to have easy access to rank tickets, and you want them to be able to grind to get the new content without being time gated by it. From a literal, you must wait a month minimum. You want them time gated, and you must have this many gems minimum, because then it feels like they're in control, even if they're not.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is, Reynad actually did admit that he was worried about the monetization model, right? He said, I was really worried about releasing it. And then he said a real jackass kind of thing where he's like, I really felt bad about it, or I was worried about it. But now that now that Reddit said it's bad, I actually know that I'm right, and your guys' opinion doesn't matter.
He says that all the time. He's like, he made a change in one of the patch notes that he's like, this is actually a change that he's like, I finalized this change in the game, and then I saw a suggestion for it on Reddit, and I thought we might need to go back and change it, because if Reddit suggested it, it must be wrong. And I'm like, I don't disagree. I think that's I don't know if he's being serious. To me, that sounds very funny, and it sounds like a great way to make a joke. And maybe Reddit is wrong 70% of the time, but obviously any blanket statement, right? If frickin' Richard Dawkins went on Reddit and said something about the human evolution, it wouldn't just be wrong because it's on Reddit, right? But still, it is kind of funny. He likes ruffling feathers, which I think, intentional or not, I think he's kind of like me, where you get mad and then you're like, you know what, fuck him. I'm gonna fucking double down, and I'm gonna say some shit that makes him real fucking mad. And then later when you record yourself, you're like, all right, yeah, okay, maybe I was being a little mean. All right, let's do a quick review of these cards, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So I actually am unfamiliar with the Vanessa cards, so I'm going to rely on you to kind of give me an idea of their power level and their use case, and maybe the pack
We
in
do want to
general.
remind everybody that 2 days after the patch, there was another patch to hotfix items in both pools and to improve a couple things as well. So they did have to nerf them, which basically is them admitting that it was pay to win.
Yes, and it's arguable that it's pay to lose now by diluting your pool, but I don't think you could argue that the system structure is pay to win, right? I think people get too focused on how can it be pay to win when these cards make your deck worse. I'm like, I'm not talking about these specific cards. I'm talking about the structure of the system in general. That if they do release something powerful, it instantly becomes pay to win with no way to. Okay, doesn't matter. All right, dive
So
weights.
dive weights was insane. They nerfed it. It's probably just a good card in certain builds. So being able to multicast haste has a lot of really positive triggers. Dooley loves to see this when they're digging for treasure. Yeah, I just think that it's a solid card now. But it was absolutely bananas when you could get it down to 3 seconds, and it would start with 3 multicast, then 2 multicast, then 1.
That's huge, actually. Is this can you get, so if you're playing Dually or whatever, and you can get, I don't even know how you get items as Dually, but it can, if you discover other heroes' items in their shops and stuff like that, can you find their expansion items if you don't own the expansion?
I can't say, right?
Man,
I don't know
I'm
if
kind of
you
I'm
don't
kind of
own.
interested. Like if you're playing Vanessa and you have an ammo item, can you get the lose from Pig if you don't have the Pig expansion? I don't know. Um,
Yeah, I don't think so. And I can't even say for sure that I don't think I've ever hit it. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I don't even know if you can hit. Like if I'm playing Dually, even though I own both packs, I can't say for sure that you can actually hit those in the dig. I just know I always want to see it when I'm dueling.
That's kind of interesting. All right, volcanic vents. This item to me strikes me as weak, but an item I would build everything around because I'm determined to make it strong.
Yeah, that's weak.
Multicast 3 is so high though, man. It means it activates 3 times, right?
Yeah, but there's a card in Dooley that's small, that's identical to that. Only it has conditions to get to the 3 multicast. But
Okay.
once you meet the conditions, which are pretty easy, you need to have an adjacent like tool and adjacent friend or something. It does it in 5 seconds. Well, it just got bonked to 6, but so it does it faster and it's a small item.
This feels like you take the gold skill and you're like, all right, I take the burn skill, and then you find this on bronze and you're like, oh, I have 10 burn multicast 3 on day 1. Like you're just a god, like for the first few days of the game, and then you probably move out of it. Probably don't even make it silver ever, right? Um,
Yep.
Dorsid, don't even know what this
Yeah,
is.
this guy's cool. If you have a burn build, right, you can definitely play this. And I like the fact that it hastes. It's a little slow, but with the bonkening, 7 isn't as ridiculous as it used to be. Like 7, I used to think I'm never playing that.
Yeah, 7 is like very common now. I actually think the bonkening was the best thing they've ever done to the game. The game is still kind of fast in some regards, but I don't think it's. I think they could adjust it. Just sometimes some of these like dually synergies pop off the second one item goes off, and then it's still like, oh, instead of the run being 4 seconds, it's now 7 seconds. But for the most part, I think it's been a huge improvement. But I am a Pig player, and Pig likes things to kind of take it slow. This is the one I'm familiar with. This is the thing I can't escape no matter where I go. Is this item insane?
This is the one that got nerfed to 12 that I got confused with the other one earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is this absolutely busted still? Or is it just people
No,
like this?
I think it's just good, right? It's a build around. thing, and of course, if you build around something, it should be powerful, right?
Yeah, the thing is, I always see this with like weather glass because it gives weather glass like 3 multicasts on its own, right?
Yeah, it's just like a better, slower weather glass.
Okay. This is the one that I see a lot, and the freeze is actually kind of insane when it has like multicast 6 and it freezes 6 items for a second. But I mean, again, I bet if I use this, it's not as auto win as I feel like it can be when I go up against it. Darkwater Angler. I remember people saying this is the biggest dog shit item. Is it still bad, or is it quite a bit better?
It get buffed. Like now, it's just um, think of pufferfish, but for burn. Um, but it's worse than pufferfish. But that's what it does. It's basically just a bad pufferfish for burn.
Okay. Um, yeah, it's a very cool art. It's actually my favorite art of this whole thing, probably even over the cool Cthulhu guy. Yeti crab. I've seen people run this for sure.
Yeah, absolutely ruined it. So it used to be freeze an item for like 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds as you ranked it up.
Hmm.
Now it's always 1 second.
Ooh. Whenever you freeze, adjacent poison items gain 1 poison for the fight. It doesn't read that powerful. It reads pretty weak. But
Yeah,
maybe it was really strong with the longer freeze. Yeah, because it can hit anything.
yeah,
As a small item that can hit a large item, that's so stupid. Small items should not be able to freeze a large item for 3 seconds, you know?
correct. And it's rare. So like, yeah, being able to freeze for 3 or 4 seconds, they're especially because you have builds that don't use a lot of items, right? And you freeze their flagship, and it's like, oh, ha.
That's so oppressive. Mantis Strip. Crip had a video on this today. When you slow, this gains 10 damage and 1 burn for the fight.
Yeah, it's not good. You can pick it up early game because it's not horrible for the first 2, 3 days, but you're not building around it unless you're Crip.
It is a ammo item, which is very weird. Um, yeah, it doesn't read super powerful, but again, I'm not that familiar with Vanessa's slow mechanics. I mean, I've seen like the rope or whatever, but even then, what you get, it's 9 seconds. If it had multicast, I think I'd be in. But I still don't know why. Why would I run this over the medium-sized shark guy? The guy that gets damage every time you haste or something. Um,
Yeah, one of the issues in the competitive space of haste and slow is you really want to haste your own items because it actually makes them haste faster. So it ramps upwards in how much damage it does when you're scaling off of haste. But
yeah.
when you scale off of slow, it's linear, right? So it doesn't actually go up. Um,
Yeah, Mantis Strip, cool. Now this, I've never seen anyone actually use this item. It must be weak. This is the only reason I've wanted to play Vanessa
I've
recently.
beat it twice. One time it was really close, but
Every time you poison, freeze, or burn, charges 1 second, and it gains 75 damage is a lot of damage. Like, I feel like when this attacks, it's going to attack for 1,000, something like that. But is that really better than just like Beast of Burden? Or is it really better than like, I don't know. Is it even better than the shark guy, you know, who can frequently get that high? It's probably too
I'm
weak,
not
but
I'm not convinced it's better than Boulder.
yeah, it might just be worse than Boulder. Obviously you're gonna want to use it. Like if you use the depth charge and you use weather glass and you use this, well, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You only have 3 slots left. I mean, it's gonna go off, but at that point, you're doing so much damage with the poison, burn, and freeze. Do you like care that? I don't know. I do think it's a little bit of an awkward item, but I like the art. I like the style. I like something with a 30-second cooldown. Guess what? If you get Fort, this is multicast, baby. This is multicast with Fort. We've done it. I love Fort is the greatest item in the game, by the way. Everything got bonked, and now Fort works with everything. It's so good because it also increases all your opponent's cooldowns by another bonk level. And at Diamond, it double bonks. It makes everything 2 seconds slower. Fort is so good. All right, before we get the diving element, it gives all the items 2 seconds longer. That's all your opponent's items too. But all of your items get 2 seconds longer and multicast. So it's like they actually get half their cooldown. It's so good. I love Fort. It just doesn't show up enough. Make it bronze, you cowards. Ruin the game just for 1 week. All right, diving helmet.
Make Fort great again.
Yeah.
All right. So Diving helmet is so horrible, but there's some really cool stuff you can do with making non-aquatic items aquatic, right?
There is a this is a meme dream card. Like, this is one of those cards that I look at and I'm like, this looks so weak. But there is going to be a very hyper specific creative person that comes out with something busted. That's like, when you apply a tag to something that's not supposed to have that tag, suddenly it's an infinite loop because they didn't plan those two items to be in the same pool. So this is one of those items that does literally nothing and is dog water, or it's going to instantly break your game. As a matter of fact, I don't really like it. But it is a cool item though. I can see a lot of people having fun with that. This is a cool ass vehicle, right?
Yeah, and the fact that it's 3 seconds now, because it was 4 just like sub. So yeah, this thing can get nuts.
So is the idea you run this and submarine and they're both 3 seconds? Or no, submarine's 4 seconds into this 3 seconds?
Yeah, so
I guess you
now
can run
that
with
it
any
also,
large item though.
yeah, right. Now it's an extra option for like if you have certain pieces of your one weapon Vanessa build, right? So you have a crow's nest, but you just can't find like the 3 better targets. This is now the 4th target that you can use in your one weapon.
Yeah, this seems like a perfect one weapon build because it's smaller than the submarine and it's faster.
Right.
Is
And
this
with what's the boat that's not port?
flagship or
Not
the one that recharges all your port is the ammo one.
multicast. What's the multicast large?
I don't remember. Shipwreck.
Shipwreck. Exactly. So with shipwreck, this attacks twice in 3 seconds, right? And yeah, it can do some crazy stuff. Not insane by any means, but like playable.
This seems like a very powerful mid-game thing that isn't going to get you to 10 wins probably, but is absolutely going to be very good to help you get to like 7 wins.
Right. Well, and it's a transition piece, right? You find your flagship later, and then you can convert into that. So yeah.
All right, let's take a quick look at Pig, which I'll have more to say on as opposed to speculation. I've played with all these items. So first I'll say half of them are pretty bad. Snowmobile, I think, is not there yet. There's no haste on Pig. I can't think of a thing that hastes on Pig other than the only time it existed is when you had the haste skill vendor and you could get, when you use a property, you haste adjacent, guaranteed. Then you could use a ATM to haste stuff. So that would make Snowmobile good because you'd be able to charge us 2 seconds every few seconds and it would be hasted while it's doing it. Outside of that, there's no haste, right? This is like if Vanessa happens to get this, I guess. The freeze is also relatively bad. Yeah, Snowmobile is just not that good. It doesn't really fit into any build quite yet. I don't know how to fix it. I think they could buff this a little bit, but I'm not happy with it. Luxury Kiwas is maybe the biggest dog shit item in the game. It might be the worst Pig item. Like it might be worse than Brass Knuckles. Like honestly.
You think this is worse than Brass Knuckles?
I think it's possible because if you put Brass Knuckles with Obsidian, at least they could do something in the early game. This starts with a burn of 2 every 8 seconds or something like that. Like that is bad. This loses to the match you get from the basic guy, and the only way to get value on it is to either get lucky and get a rewards card in the early game from like an Andy or an enchanted one, or to sell properties. It just doesn't. It is hard to sell properties. You don't.
Or you can use VIP card.
Use what?
VIP card?
Yeah, you could use if you get VIP card, it's reasonable, but VIP card isn't until silver, so you don't usually get it. So if you start with this item, you're like, it's bad. If you get it in the mid game, I had this up to 150 value, and it was still bad. Right?
It's not a property, so it doesn't even work.
It doesn't even synergize. Oh yeah, you're right. That's why I was like, that's right. This isn't even a property. It is bad. I actually think it might be the worst item. And then as far as the next 2 worst ones, I think Aurora Dome is fine, but I think it kind of sucks. A 5-second property is actually pretty reasonable. The best thing about this is that it's a property, medium, and 5 seconds. That's what's kind of good. The fact that freezing and shielding as a combination is kind of dumb. But it's like when you're freezing them, you're taking less damage, and you're also taking less damage because you're shielding more. So it's kind of doubling up on the defensiveness. But it's very lackluster.
You know what Aurora Dome is for? A dome is for? It's actually for snowmobile. So like when you hit the Aurora Dome snowmobile ATM with the haste skill, it's charge 8 every time those two go off and haste it twice.
Yeah, if the thing is that skill is impossible to find now because they got rid of that vendor. I cannot find that skill ever.
You pick the diamond pig skills, and then it will show up under there sometimes.
Sometimes I know, but I'm telling you, I play a lot of pig. I've not seen that skill in the last 20 runs, not once. But last 10 runs. Yeah, I don't think Aurora Dome is very good. It's mostly good because it's a secondary ATM, but worse than ATM. Because it doesn't give you income when you get it. The next one that I would say is kind of bad is Hot Stones, but I think Hot Stones is actually pretty good early on. It's not great, but it's easy to underestimate how powerful it is to get a little bit of regeneration in the early game. When you're going into a fight and you get 3, 6, 9 regeneration, that shit just adds up pretty fast. That's a lot more healing than you would expect. It is by no means broken, but for a small item, it fits on almost any board, and it just kind of does reasonable. It's usually it's usually an item I'll keep on my board because it's strong enough, but it's like whatever. You never build around it. It's just there because you have nothing better to put into it, but it does pull its weight at the very least. Now, when we get
into the first 3 days, it's usable.
Now we're getting into like the good items here. Sauna, I think, is arguably good. It's a property, 7 seconds. I would always have Sauna over Aurora Dome 10 times out of 10, even with the slower speed. Burn 4 is not that much, but now if you have this whole pack, there's just a lot more burn synergy to be had in there. And then every time you apply any stack of burn, you're going to heal a little bit and you're going to get regeneration. And again, this is just kind of works. It's not a broken item, but I think this is like the first out of his like good items in this pack. So about half of them are bad. A couple of them are good. And then a few of them are great. So this is pretty good. Next, I actually
it's really good with Matchbox.
Yes, I love Matchbox, man. Matchbox is still one of my favorite items. Steam Ladle is good, but it's just good. I would rather have Matchbox, but this is better if you could freeze. If you can't freeze, it's a bad Matchbox. If you can, it's still, you might run this and Matchbox because this helps trigger Matchbox and it does burn, and the higher you get their burn, the better you get. It works with, Sauna, so I think this is good, but if you're not going to have free synergy, it falls off pretty fast. But if you do have the free synergy, like this item was insane. I had 600 burn on this before they nerfed everything. So this item was completely busted and now is only good. But mostly because Cold Room got nerfed really hard, and it's still good, by the way. I still think it's the best item here. VIP Pass is my favorite item that they added. This is a perfect pig item that should have always existed. When you use adjacent properties, you increase its value and itself by 1. I mean, it works with Fixer Upper, and it's good even with things. It also can haste properties, but whatever. It's great with Fixer Upper. It's great with things even like ATM, because you may not need the value on ATM, but you might sell it to get the money back one day. Or if not, there's still a lot of synergies with like Skyscraper, things like that you might want to pivot into, where having that high value could still be useful. VIP Pass has been fantastic. I love it. It's a very fun item that is perfectly situated at a point of the game where you want to be increasing your value. And it's just like, I think this should be in the base pig set because it's so core. This has nothing to do with frozen assets and everything to do with what pig should be doing in every single build of the game. So yes, I think
if people go back to like November, in a couple of our podcasts, you said, well, you described needing something to bridge, right, the gap for property values, because you can't really transfer property values, and there's nothing that really gets you property value early other than, of course,
the rewards card.
So I think this is exactly what you were talking about. So it's kind of cool that you forebode this mechanic.
I agree. I think this should be, and again, I really do think this should be in the base pig set. I think they should replace this with something. I don't know what. They're never going to do that, I'm pretty sure, because people have paid money to get this. But I do think that this should I think it's good enough. Luge is a super cool item, man. They nerfed it in a way that upsets me, but it's still totally fair. You freeze adjacent items for a second, and then you reduce the cooldown of adjacent items by 1 second for the fight. So this doesn't trigger till after 5 seconds, so it's a little bit slow to start, but then it kind of just like pops off. You can get this more ammo. It's a 1 ammo item, but if you get it 2 ammo, right, then suddenly those things are gonna, you know, activate a second time, and it'll have 2 less cooldown. Can make things completely busted. It also at diamond it goes to cooldown 2 seconds, so it lowers the cooldown by 2 seconds. It's a very cool, very fun, very powerful item. It's very much pig also in the sense that it's a scaling thing, right? You're still weak in the first 5 seconds, but over 10 seconds, 20 seconds, like you're just doing way more the longer the fight goes on. And I think this is a perfect kind of pig style item. They used to make it so whenever adjacent items got frozen, it lowered the cooldown. Instead of it being tied to this item, it was a passive. Whenever things adjacent to it got frozen, lowered its cooldown. Apparently that was too strong with other self-freeze synergies. You could get like that dually or the stopwatch that froze all items for a second. You can get the dually item that freezes all non-core items or something like that.
You could get the freeze adjacent items from Curio.
Yeah, and then you could get the private hot springs, which freezes all other items. So it was probably too powerful. I was very excited for a true self-freeze synergy item, which I think is what they wanted. But I think it was too powerful implemented in this way. I think reducing the cooldown off the self-freeze synergy is too strong, and maybe they should have a different way to do that. But I do want them to go back to the self-freeze stuff. So the second strongest item, I think, is probably the private hot springs. It's just that, like, I read this item, and I don't think it's broken, but everything on it is just, I'm happy to have. 8 burn as a baseline is not a lot, but at 6 seconds, it's like whatever. If you're going to have the burn, you're probably going to have multiple ways to burn if you're going to end up picking this up. So it's a pretty reasonable amount of burn. 8 regeneration, again, is quite a lot, and these are all baseline still. This is just kind of a nice property just to kind of, it's dealing some damage, it's keeping you healed. And then if you ever fall below half life, you freeze all other items for 3 seconds, which is just a great effect. And then this thing triggers like 3 times, because whenever you freeze, you charge this item 4 seconds. So even though it's 6 seconds, it has a 4-second charge. And if you have anything that freezes, it's just gonna pop, 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 pop. It's just a very handy to have item. I'm always happy to have it. I throw it in most builds if I have any kind of freeze or any kind of burn. I'll still throw this in because I like being able to freeze all the other items, because that stops them from getting more shields. It just lets my burn do 6 triggers, right? So even just the freezing mechanic is powerful, even if you don't have a whole lot of other synergies with it.
It's a really cool defensive tool. Like, we have healing defensive tools, we have shielding defensive tools. It's really cool for us to have a regen based like defensive tool.
I love the direction they took this frozen assets pack. Well, let me finish with the last item. Probably the most powerful item, even still, after it got quad nerfed, is the frozen assets. It went from, like, I think 6 seconds, or no, it went from 8-second cooldown to 10 seconds. It went from bronze to silver, and it basically chopped off the diamond of everything. It took the bronze version and made it silver, and it chopped off the diamond stuff. Whenever you freeze, so freeze 1 item for 1 second. That's pretty weak. But whenever you freeze anything, you gain 3 regeneration for the fight. When your enemy uses any item, charge this 1 second. The reason why this item is still so powerful is that when you go from silver to gold, it freezes 2 items for 1 second, and when you freeze, you gain 6 regeneration for the fight. So it's getting double upgraded, right? And also this synergizes with anything else that you have that does happen to freeze as well. But this item now will freeze 2 items, and so instead of giving you 3 regeneration every 10 seconds or whatever, whenever it activates, it'll give you 12 regeneration when you upgrade it, because it freezes 2 things each time, gives you 6. And then when you upgrade it to diamond, right, it goes up to 9 regeneration, 3 items. So it's now 27 regeneration every time it triggers. It ramps up so much, so fast, and it's just going off constantly. The more your opponents activate items, the more their items get frozen, which it sounds like a non-bow with itself, because you want them to activate items, but really what you want is their items to be frozen anyway. So, it's a very cool item. It's a cold item. It's fun. It kind of brings a lot of the synergies together. I love the direction of this pack. It has a few big drawbacks. One, this is one of my favorite items right here, because this whole idea of a burn and there's a lot of burn synergy and there's a lot of regeneration synergy here. So I love Pygmalion maybe being more solidified as a regeneration slash burn style character, as opposed to Mac, who we've seen a lot of. He has like a poison regeneration kind of style kit. So I think it's kind of fun because Pig has no poison at all, effectively without enchantments. And so I think it is pretty cool that they've kind of taken this whole pack to give him an identity that doesn't exist in the game yet. It's not like whatever the
Water.
it's not like the other one where it's like, okay, she just has more aquatic stuff now. She's gone fishing. This is like a whole new archetype that didn't exist in the game. As far as the downside though, is without like cold room, without having a way to actually freeze stuff, a lot of these items kind of flounder. One, this item is bad, but this item doesn't do anything without heavy freeze synergy. This item, like, it just, I feel like a lot of these don't really do that much if you don't have the cold room. The cold room feels like the cornerstone of everything because it's freezing and it's giving you regeneration. This is giving you regeneration, which gives you burn. And then this one is when you burn, you get more regeneration. And this one's when you freeze, you get burn. So they all kind of like feed into each other. But I feel like individually, Steam Ladle doesn't do that much. Sauna tends not to do that much. The Hot Stones is like a very normal item, and Snowmobile sucks, but and Aurora kind of sucks. But I feel like once you start getting a couple of these together, that's when you have this whole really fun build. Whereas Cold Room, I think, actually is just standalone powerful, and I think that Private Hot Springs is kind of standalone powerful. I don't usually run the rest of them without some sort of synergy piece. Even the VIP pass, I'm like, I don't need. What do I need to upgrade the value on this stuff for? You know, but it is very good that it's in the game. So that's a lot of talking from me. Do you have anything to add?
Overall, what are our thoughts for the open launch? If we had to like kind of grade it out of, like a 1 to 10, based off of our experience from playing the game since, day one of it being available for anybody other than family and friends, what are you thinking?
I think it's the most fun the game has been yet. It's hard for me to say it's not the most fun. It's the most balanced the game has been. It's got the best start of run effects, the most balanced start of run effects. I've never been more excited to start a run than I am now, because I get to see what enchantment am I going to get on my random item. That is such a fun button to click. So I'm going to give it like, I think it's still like an 8. I think it could be a bit better. I think some of these I think that the pack could be more easily accessible to people. I think that some of these items could use a buff, and some of them were a little bit too strong, but they kind of addressed the strong ones. I kind of hope they bring like a snowmobile and these items up. Everything else is in a reasonable spot. They're just like not that good. It's been crazy fun. I mean, I'm going to give it an 8. I think it could always be better. I think, but it's hard for me to say that it's not the best state the game has been in.
Yeah, honestly, when we're talking about like forget monetization stuff, right? Just the game. How good is this patch gameplay wise? I mean, it's like you said, the best it's ever been, the most balanced it's ever been, the most polished it's ever been. Like, do we even have placeholder art anymore? I don't think so.
I don't remember any placeholder art. So it's
Right?
possible
Yeah.
that it's all gone. Even the study got its book now.
So I'm, really excited about all of those pieces of it. I'm also excited about the new players coming in because it's easier than ever to win. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are getting upset about that, and they're like, I don't like feeling like it's handed to me. It's like, well, you're still playing against humans. You know what I mean? They're going to get better. It's not. People are going to run out of tickets. It's not forever. But after grinding some really rough patches, like the patch that you took most of it off, the dually beats everything patch, like that was really really rough for 5 straight weeks. Dually just oppressed the entire meta, and I kept playing and I kept burning gems. And to compare that gameplay game state to what we have now, it's a world of a difference.
I think because it's funny, if we look back, we're like, why no patch can be a good thing. Here, they could really fine tune their data, and there's a lot of positives to this. And then we're on the other side of it, and we're like, okay, we were right. It was dog shit. It's like, all right, we did want that patch, but now we know for sure that people are pretty good at getting the meta solved. And if anything, it got more solidified than before. which is kind of funny because every now and then sometimes something will pop up and be like the meta breaker. If something's being dominated by something, the meta breaker can come along. Didn't really happen, it doesn't sound like. Although I'm sure there was
And
some success, but probably not much.
yeah, there was like a Vanessa build that could compete, but yeah, now that we're out of this, like just the hardcore gamers who wanted to pay $30 or whatever are in, um, the best part of this entire thing for me is I've always wanted to just play what the game gives me. I've done that at times. It usually negatively affects my rank in Legend, and you know what I mean? Like, negatively affects the amount of gems I have. But when it works, it feels so rewarding, right? And
Yes.
now I feel like I can actually get away with playing whatever it gives me, and I'm almost like guaranteed in this meta 7+ wins as long as I just play the game as it gives it to me. And then sometimes I see something in the shop and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna force that. But for the most part, man, it's just been so much fun to play, and that's the most important part of a game, right?
That's what I loved about old Cold Room that was way too powerful. It was the perfect item to let sit there while you experimented with any random junk you wanted and still were able to win because you were on the back of Cold Room giving you 200 regeneration every fight while freezing all their items. Uh, it was too strong, but I can't tell you, I was not going crazy heavy meta. I did, I think, 1 run, maybe 2 runs with the Steam Ladle, but then I did like 5 runs of like, all right, let's get the Cold Room, set it there. Now let's just do some wacky stuff. And it was still successful. So that is one thing I'm going to miss about the Cold Room, but that is impressive. But yeah, like I've been, you just saw, let me pull up my, I can't pull up my match history with you, but I just sent you a couple 10 wins I had. I had a, like a poison yo-yo, a lottle drum weights build or something, like like a bunch of just kind of weird stuff that worked and was powerful, but was not refined at all. It was like kind of coming up with new stuff and playing as whatever came to me, which was great. It's just been fun. I can't do that with Vanessa, but I could do it with Pig, where I'm just having a good time. As long as that I don't auto buy Land Scraper and throw away all my money on an item that does nothing. Why is that item there? It doesn't even increase its own value. Man, oh, it does. But I mean, like, that item makes me so mad because whenever you use another item, this gets plus shield equal to that item's value. Why not give it value equal to that item's value for the fight? That way it actually kind of ramps up, and then it works with the other items that care about value. It would still probably not be good, but it would be cooler. All right, doesn't matter. I've got nothing else to add for this episode. What about you?
Nope, I think we covered everything.
Absolutely. We're bringing it up right at 1 hour right now. If you're watching this and it's more than an hour, that's it's an hour long if you watch it at 2 times speed. So it's your fault for not watching it on 2 times speed. All right. I mean, I'm ready to go. I want to sign out. And so thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you, Laliette, for entertaining me while I go on my long rants and for that moment where I brain farted for 15 seconds that hopefully I remember to edit out. But yeah, guys, that'll be everything. Thank you very much. Perplatypus and Laliette are Perplatypus, and we'll see you on the flip-flops. Bye!